Today we're going to discuss about thyroiditis. So it is a part of goiter, that is an enlargement thyroid gland. It means inflammatory diseases of the thyroid gland. So it's classified into many types, of which the prominent ones are autoimmune thyroiditis, further subclassified into chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis and subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis. Then you have the granulomatous thyroiditis. Then you have fibrosing thyroiditis. Then you have infective thyroiditis, which is further classified into acute and chronic. And then you have others, which include amyloidosis, sarcoidosis, radiation thyroiditis, drug-induced thyroiditis, etc. Now, autoimmune thyroiditis. It's a type of thyroiditis where the etiology is believed to be autoantibodies. There's two types. You have the chronic lymphocytic thyroiditis, otherwise known as Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And then you have the subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis, otherwise known as the painless postpartum thyroiditis. So chronic autoimmune thyroiditis or Hashimoto's thyroiditis or struma lymphomatosa usually presents as a goiter, which may be diffuse or nodular, with presence of established thyroid failure or subclinical hypothyroidism. It's an autoimmune disease. The damage to the gland is caused by the autoantibodies. The anti-thyroid peroxidase or anti-TPO antibody is seen in 90 to 95% of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Anti-thyroglobulin antibody is seen in 30 to 50%. Now, TSH receptor antibodies are seen only in around 5% of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So there is initial hyperplasia, and then fibrosis sets in, and eventually infiltration with the plasma cells and lymphocytes occurs. So the entire gland gets damaged towards the end. Now, the risk factor is that it predisposes to papillary carcinoma thyroid as well as to malignant lymphoma. So clinical features usually presents in women around the menopausal age, but can occur at any age. Onset is usually insidious. Person presents with a diffuse or a nodular goiter, maybe small or large, maybe mildly tender, soft or firm in consistency. So during the initial phase, there may be thyrotoxicosis, but eventually later on, hypothyroidism will set in and worsen. So towards the end, there will be primary hypothyroidism or primary myxedema without any detectable thyroid enlargement. That is the end stage of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. The diagnosis is the usual, that is the thyroid function test, ultrasound neck, and the FNAC. Now, along with that, you will do a thyroid autoantibody assay. And the treatment, once diagnosed, the treatment is to correct the hypothyroidism with oral thyroxine and keep the patient on long-term follow-up. If it's a large goiter, there is sudden increase, that is, there's a chance of papillary carcinoma thyroid developing or lymphoma, then you can consider thyroidectomy. Now, in the second category, it's a subacute autoimmune thyroiditis or subacute lymphocytic thyroiditis or painless postpartum thyroiditis or painless sporadic thyroiditis. Now, here, as the name suggests itself, it is painless. And it is probably due to autoimmune pathology, as circulating autoantibodies are seen in most of these patients and usually occurs in the postpartum period, but it can occur also sporadically. Usually affects women in the middle age, and postpartum period does not mean the first 6 weeks after delivery. It actually refers to a period as high as 1 year. So even post delivery, even up to 1 year, the person may develop a painless form of thyroiditis. So usually presents as a painless neck mass with mild hyperthyroidism initially. So this may be followed by either recovery or the person may go into hypothyroidism. And then this is likely to recur again in future pregnancies. Diagnosis, thyroid function test, ultrasound neck and FNAC. Along with that, you can do the autoantibody assay. So the anti-TPO antibodies may be seen. Now, if you do a radioactive iodine uptake study, it will usually show low uptake as it is a thyroiditis. Here again, the treatment is for the hypothyroidism to give oral thyroxine and to keep on long-term follow-up. Now, in that initial hyperthyroid phase, you can consider to give patient beta blockers. There is no actual need for starting on antithyroid drugs like carbimazole or propyl thiouracil. Now, in the second category, you have the granulomatous thyroiditis or Dicker-Vein's thyroiditis or giant cell thyroiditis. It usually follows a viral infection like mumps or Coxsackie virus. Here, there is an inflammatory response with infiltration of lymphocytes, neutrophils, and giant cells. Clinical features. Now, I told you this is a painful thyroiditis, so it presents as a painful swelling in the neck with fever, malaise, and usually there is a firm, irregular enlargement of one or both lobes of the thyroid gland. It may be tender. Sometimes it can present as a tender, diffuse thyroid swelling with mild hyperthyroidism. In either way, the anti-thyroid autoantibodies are absent. It's a self-limiting disease, and usually the goiter will subside over a few months, maybe up to 10 months. In 10% cases, the onset is acute with very painful and tender goiter. Usually it is a subacute presentation. Diagnosis again is by thyroid function test, ultrasound neck and FNAC, and you can do a thyroid autoantibody assay. It will be absent. And radioiodine uptake study will also again show a low uptake of iodine 123. Now here, since etiology is viral and it's self-limiting, we can give a course of oral steroids of 10 to 20 milligram prednisolone daily for 7 days, and then you can taper it over the next 4 to 5 weeks. Now for the hypothyroidism, if it develops, you can give oral thyroxine. Now the next category is Riedel's thyroiditis. It's also called Riedel's struma. Struma means goiter, so Riedel's struma or invasive fibrous thyroiditis or fibrosing thyroiditis. So these are the other names of Riedel's thyroiditis. It's a very rare type that accounts for 0.5% of the goiters. It's a progressive type of thyroiditis of unknown etiology. The thyroid tissue gets replaced by fibrous tissue, and this then infiltrates beyond the capsule into the surrounding strap muscles and other muscles and adjacent structures like the parathyroid glands, rectinoidal nerve, and the carotid sheath. So it may be also associated with retroperitoneal fibrosis, sclerosing cholangitis, and mediastinal fibrosis. These are the other conditions which have been known to be associated with Riedel's thyroiditis. So clinical features, it usually affects the middle-aged women, and it presents as a rapidly growing or enlarging stony hard goiter with an irregular surface and usually positive Berry sign and stridor. So the person may develop, once the person has the swelling and if it's rapidly growing, she'll have the features of dysphagia, stridor, and hoarseness over a course of 3 to 4 months itself. Now this cannot be clinically differentiated from anaplastic carcinoma. However, an FNAC or a biopsy will help in the diagnosis. Now, eventually, hypothyroidism is seen in all cases of Riedel's thyroiditis. Now, the diagnosis again is TFT. Ultrasound neck won't do much. You have to perform a CT neck to know the exact relations of the gland with the vital structures of the neck. FNAC will help in diagnosis, especially to rule out anaplastic carcinoma thyroid. An autoantibody assay can be done. Again, the radioactive iodine uptake scan will show no uptake in the gland. Now here, just like anaplastic carcinoma, the role of surgery is primarily to relieve the stridor or the tracheal compression, and hysterectomy may be done in such cases. Now otherwise, the treatment is medical. You can give high-dose steroids. Similarly, oral tamoxifen and methotrexate also has been tried. Now for the hypothyroidism, you have to give oral thyroxine. Now the last category. This is infective thyroiditis. It's also called bacterial thyroiditis or pyrogenic thyroiditis or acute suppurative thyroiditis. So this is a type of thyroiditis which occurs following bacterial, fungal, or even viral infections and rarely parasitic infections. So it can present as acutely with symptoms as well as chronically with chronic factors. So acute factors include the bacteria like Staphylococcus and Streptococcus, fungal like Aspergillus, Candida, and Histoplasma, and viruses are numerous viruses including Coxsackie and mumps. Now chronic infections include bacteria like tuberculosis and syphilis, parasites like echinococcosis and cysticercosis. Clinically, the person presents with severe neck pain of acute onset with radiation of the pain to the ear, mandible, or the back of the head or occiput. Then complaints like dysphagia, dysphonia, odynophagia, fever, rigor, fatigue may also be seen. Usually it is unilateral, but in some patients it can present as a bilateral tender goiter or a thyroid swelling with cervical lymphadenopathy. Now, features of thyroidopathy may be seen during the initial phase. Now, in some, especially bacterial thyroiditis, it may go on to result in local abscess collection or collection of pus. So the diagnosis is the usual, that is thyroid function test, ultrasound neck and CT neck, and FNAC, an autoantibody assay, which will be negative. But here, just like a regular infection, the complete blood count will show leukocytosis. ESR will be elevated. If an aspirate or cytology is available, you can do gram staining and culture and sensitivity. The radioiodine active scan again will show no uptake. Now here the thing is that there is a risk for sepsis and septic shock. So high mortality is likely if there is no proper treatment. So the treatment is with intravenous antibiotics like penicillin or ampicillin. Now similarly, if an abscess is detected, then drainage of the abscess must be done. So it is treated as a regular infection and usually it subsides thereafter. So thank you. So we have dealt with the common types, that is autoimmune thyroiditis, which includes Hashimoto's as well as the subacute postpartum thyroiditis. Then you have the Riedl's thyroiditis. Then you have the granulomatous thyroiditis, and you have the infective thyroiditis, both acute and chronic. And then you have others which I've not mentioned now. They include amyloidosis, sarcoidosis, radiation thyroiditis, drug-induced thyroiditis, especially in drugs like amiodarone. So saying this, I thank you.